Ever get this feeling like you're more than just you, like a whole world exists inside? Well, guess what? It's true. We're practically walking ecosystems.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Totally. We're sharing our bodies with trillions of microorganisms.
Trillions, yeah, outnumbering our own cells, like 10 to 1.
Talk about being outnumbered in your own home, right?
And it's not just the sheer number, it's the diversity. This microbial community, mainly in our gut, it's crucial for our health. Really, really crucial.
It's wild. And today's deep dive is right into that world. We're talking probiotics, prebiotics, symbiotics. It's like a whole new language sometimes.
Absolutely easy to get lost. But these biotics, they all shape that inner ecosystem.
Right?
Probiotics, for example, those live microorganisms. The World Health Organization, they define those as beneficial when you eat enough of them.
So like tiny little helpers swooping in. But there are so many types. Do they all like move into our gut permanently?
Not always, no. That's the fascinating part. Some just need to reach the intestines, alive and in good numbers.
Yeah.
Lactobacillus casei shirota, you see that in some yogurts. Or Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG, that's often in supplements. They could have an impact without setting up camp permanently.
Okay, so they don't all become residents. Got it. But what about those prebiotics? Where do they fit in?
Well, even good bacteria need to eat. Prebiotics are the food. Think of them like
Yeah.
the caterers for the gut bacteria party, if you will.
Okay, like where this is going. So prebiotics are laying out the spread. What are they serving up?
Oh, the essentials. Inulin, that's naturally in chicory root, asparagus, things like that. FOS, you'll find that in bananas, onions, ingredients like that. They help those good bacteria already in the gut to flourish.
So it's all about keeping those good guys fed.
Exactly. And then you've got symbiotics. Those are the real power couple. They're both probiotics and prebiotics together, working as a team.
Okay, so probiotics are showing up ready to work, prebiotics are keeping them fueled up, and symbiotics are making sure the party is well catered and well attended.
I like it. But sometimes things go wrong, right? Like with that SIBO thing we're getting into, it sounds kind of scary, to be honest.
It can be, yeah. SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, is when you get too much bacteria in the small intestine, which should really just be a transit zone.
So too much of a good thing. Isn't that how the saying goes? Well, in this case, not so much. This buildup of bacteria in the small intestine, it leads to them fermenting carbs too early in the digestive process. And that can create, well, a lot of excess gas. Not ideal.
So that explains the discomfort people often have with SIBO. It's interesting, though, the material mentioned how the gut microbiome might be linked to other aspects of our health, too, not just digestion. That's actually what got me interested in this whole topic. Like, what else is going on in there?
It's a hot area of research, for sure. Scientists are finding more and more connections all the time. Like the immune system, there's a definite link there. A balanced gut microbiome seems to go hand in hand with a healthy immune system. Some of these bacteria in our gut actually help to train our immune cells, teaching them the difference between harmless stuff and real threats.
Wait, so our gut bacteria are like little immune system coaches. That's amazing. Gut bacteria coaching our immune cells. That is wild. And the materials specifically mention inflammatory bowel diseases. Is there a connection there, too?
There really does seem to be. Researchers are finding that when the gut microbiome is out of whack, it's called dysbiosis, right? And it's often found in people with inflammatory bowel diseases, like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis.
So those are pretty serious conditions.
They are, yeah. And it's not totally clear yet whether the dysbiosis causes them or the other way around. It's an area of active research, for sure. But restoring a good balance in the gut microbiome, that's being looked at as a way to help manage those conditions, which is really promising, I think.
Makes sense, yeah. So we've got this whole ecosystem in our gut affecting not just digestion, but potentially our immunity as well.
It's pretty amazing how interconnected our bodies are when you think about it. But okay, let's get back to SIBO for a sec. How do you even know if you have it? It's not like those bacteria are sending out little warning signals, right?
Right. It can be tricky. The best way to diagnose it is by culturing fluid from the jejunum, which is the middle part of the small intestine.
Okay, so not exactly a walk in the park to test for.
No, not really. Which is
Right.
why there's the breath test. It's not perfect, but it's a lot less invasive. Basically, it measures the gases produced by the bacteria in your gut after you eat a certain type of carbohydrate.
Interesting. So what are we sniffing for clues here?
Kind of. If there are high levels of hydrogen and methane, that can point to an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine. So we're basically eavesdropping on those bacteria, listening in on their, metabolic conversations.
That's so cool. Okay, so let's say someone thinks they might have SIBO. What can they do about it?
The most important thing is to talk to a doctor. Self-treating can sometimes make things worse, but generally, dealing with SIBO requires a multi-pronged approach. You got to tackle it from a few different angles.
A multi-pronged attack plan. I like it. So what's the plan of attack?
One part often involves antibiotics to knock down those excess bacteria.
Makes sense, bring those numbers down. But it can't be as easy as just popping a few pills and you're good, right?
Yeah, right. There's a bit more to it than that. Remember we were talking about prebiotics being food for bacteria? Well, with SIBO, we actually want to sort of starve out those excess bacteria in the small intestine for a bit. That's where diet changes come in. So you're not just adding good bacteria with probiotics, you're trying to control the bacteria that are already there through diet.
Exactly. And one common approach is a low FODMAP diet.
Okay, gotta be honest, every time I hear FODMAP, my brain goes straight to that scene in Lord of the Rings with Gollum and his precious. What even are these FODMAP things?
It's not as complicated as it sounds.
Yeah.
FODME stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Basically, they're types of carbs that don't get absorbed well in the small intestine, so they end up becoming a feast for those bacteria that are overgrowing.
So by cutting down on FODMPs, you're cutting off the enemy's food supply.
You got it. We're trying to restore order, get things back in balance.
So we've got the antibiotics, knocking down those excess bacteria, and the low FODMAP diet, cutting off their food supply. But what about those friendly probiotics? Do they have a role to play in getting things back on track with SIBO?
They can, but it's not as simple as just adding more probiotics into the mix.
Right, because it's all about balance, isn't it?
Exactly. With SIBO, you see, some probiotics could actually make things worse. Others, though, they might actually be helpful, help to rebuild that healthy gut microbiome after things have calmed down a bit.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about choosing the right probiotics for the specific situation.
Exactly. Working with a healthcare provider, that's key. They can help figure out which probiotic strains, if any, are the right fit.
Makes sense. You don't want to accidentally invite the wrong bacteria to the party after you've gone to all that trouble to clean house. This has been incredibly interesting. I have to say, before we started this deep dive, the gut microbiome seemed kind of like this abstract concept, but we've really gotten into the nitty-gritty today. The role in digestion, the connection to the immune system, even that whole delicate dance of bacteria. Fascinating stuff.
And we can't forget that connection between the gut and the brain. That just blows my mind every time I think about it.
Oh, right. The gut-brain connection. It really seems like this whole world inside of us has a much bigger impact than we realize.
It does, doesn't it? And scientists are really just starting to scratch the surface of understanding it all.
So the gut microbiome could be affecting our mood, our sleep, how our brains work.
That's what the research is suggesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such an exciting area of research right now.
It's like a whole new frontier in health and wellness. Makes you wonder if we can influence our gut microbiome through diet, lifestyle, maybe even these carefully chosen probiotics. Could we actually influence those things? Our mood, our sleep, even how well our brains are working. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. It all comes back to that holistic view of health. You know, our bodies are these complex, interconnected systems. Everything is connected.
That's so true. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about and some real concrete steps I can take to support my own gut health. So thank you for joining me on this journey into the fascinating world within. It seems the more we learn about the gut microbiome, the more we realize, well, there's a lot more to learn.
I completely agree. It's such a dynamic field. New discoveries are happening all the time. So to our listeners out there, keep asking those questions, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep listening, because we'll be back with more deep dives into the amazing world of the gut microbiome very soon.